Do you guys remember this video? The OWOZU video, where a Spanish VTuber lost all of its talents in one day. They basically all walked away after, many allegations. The company locked their accounts. There's still some really large accounts that are tied with the company. The girls still don't have access to a lot of them. They've had to rebuild from scratch. There's been some grooming allegations amidst all of that. And as I said in the video, there was several lawsuits going on at the time. And one of the lawsuits, 1 out of 3 lawsuits, just got settled. So basically what happened with OWOZU is that after, like I said, 1 out of the 3 lawsuits has concluded. And unfortunately, all charges have been dismissed. And it's disappointing. It's very disappointing. As you guys know, a lot of unethical practices in business, a lot of immoral practice are sometimes legal. And in the case of OWOZU, the problem lied with trying to prove the status of employment of Karma, which was the person at the center of the lawsuit, one of the VTubers. And unfortunately, they couldn't prove that she was an employee and not a freelancer. And, well, freelancers don't get any rights. So the money, she was suing them for wages owed. And because those wages were constituted donations and memberships, she's not getting them back. So this message reads, for almost a year and a half, OWOZU has been awaiting the completion of a legal process that concluded today in the Valdivia Labor Court with the dismissal of all the plaintiffs' claim, and the judge in charge of the case has dismissed all of the allegations against OWOZU. These dismissals of the plaintiffs' claims have been based on contradictory testimony or statement from the plaintiffs and witnesses, in addition to a statement from the plaintiff herself that cannot be attributed any significant probative value. OWOZU has been the target of a campaign of harassment and public discrediting since the beginning of this process, driven by the interest of individuals who have exploited the good faith of their audience and colleagues to garner support for a discrediting campaign. Therefore, we will not initiate legal proceedings against third parties who have believed or accepted the testimony that a court today found contradictory and lacking in evidence. Basically, they're saying, we're not going to sue you guys for thinking this is right because we're that nice. We are grateful to those who have been able to wait for the final outcome of this process and who are as eager as we are for the next news we have to give them. We recommend avoiding disseminating information to those who seek to distort or use their media power to manipulate their audience with fictitious victories that have no business being public institutions with information accessible and verifiable worldwide. So we got our hands on the documents actually. And I saw a lot of posts from the OWOZU managers celebrating. I feel like they're a lot of the stuff that they're saying is a little bit, it makes them look a lot better than what was actually said in the court case. I'd say, I feel like, and it sucks to say that, but the girl lawyer, whoever was representing her, did not do a good job. So here's Rollier, one of the managers, saying, you go to court and tell them that it takes you 8 to 20 hours a day to film a 30-second short film, including the fact that you don't even edit because the editor is provided by the company. The result will surprise you. So right now, the ex-OWOZU staff is celebrating online. God, there's a lot of back and forth here, but we made an AI breakdown of the court documents. So basically the plaintiff, which is Karma, filed a lawsuit alleging violation of fundamental rights, claiming her fundamental rights were violated in the context of a forced resignation, recognition of employment relationship, and then nullity of resignation, seeking to nullify her resignation later, claiming it was signed under duress and did not represent her true will. Economic unit, single employer, requesting the court declare OWOZU as a single economic unit or employer for liability purposes. And collection of payment demanding unpaid remuneration, severance pay, and other benefits. Basically, the key issue was that the court had to decide whether the relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant was a formal employment relationship or a freelancer / independent contractor relationship. So the court's reasoning into making that decision was that the court acknowledged the legal definition of an employment contract, which includes subordination and dependence. However, the court concluded that the evidence did not sufficiently prove that the plaintiff was in a subordinate and dependent employment relationship with the defendants. The court emphasized that the plaintiff signed a contract of service and issued boletas de honorarios, which are typical of independent contracting, not employment. The court analyzed other evidence, such as emails and chat logs, and found that they did not establish the necessary elements of employment relationship. And the court also evaluated the testimony of witnesses, but found it insufficient to prove the plaintiff case. Specifically, the court pointed to contradictions in the witness's statement regarding work schedules and the fact that the plaintiff income was tied to donation and viewership and not a fixed salary. So that was a big thing that played into judging that they were from a freelance status. So the court rejected the plaintiff's lawsuit in its entirety, but the court did not order the plaintiff to pay the defendant's legal cost, at least. And the country the court was in was the Chilean court. But basically, because the court ruled that she's like a freelancer and not an employment, she's not entitled to protections and benefits of the Chilean labor law. Because she didn't make like consistent wages, they were like, sorry, you don't get any rights. So in this text, Drakeout, he basically says that the other party, here Drakeout's claimed that the opposing party is inventing evidence, but then some other users in my Discord that are like native Spanish speaking people said that the text found in the court documents, because we've been like looking at them and reading them, and I've had some people, you know, help piece things together, and they said that the text seems to say that the screenshot used as evidence has edits done on it, and that's a no-go. And then we looked at those evidence too, and some of them had edits, and when you submit evidence to court, it needs to be unaltered, like photos and evidence. So the court judged, like they just dismissed all of that evidence, and that was a huge chunk of the case that kind of went out of the window because of that. It made their case a lot weaker. One of the example is this one, for example, where she's showcasing that she was barred out of her Twitch session, but on the side here, she had a notepad open with some notes, and that counted as an altered screenshot. Another example was this one, for example, where she like barred out her name and like, you know, hid some names, and that enough was to make the court decide that these couldn't be submitted. Basically, by adding text onto the screen, it was like Karma and her lawyer were trying to add like evidence to the screenshot instead of letting the screenshot speak for itself. They were trying to like frame it and give it context, and you're not supposed to do that. When you submit evidence to a court, it needs to be like, you need to produce original data. The note mentions she lost access to their online account. Yeah, and I'd assume there's the date there too. Well, yeah. It needed not to have that. On top of that, a few Spanish-speaking users in my Discord have also said that the Chilean authorities and courts were not very tech-savvy. So that might have played a little bit into that decision too. Nonetheless, my personal opinion, kind of a very disappointing verdict. Not the first time we've seen that. If you guys remember my other video that I did on that ByteDance company that had a VTuber agency, same thing happened. Like the Chinese government investigated them and they found no wrongdoing, even though everybody could see that there was some wrongdoing. So this one. How the abuse of a top China's VTuber caused a meltdown, the ASOL scandal. So we'll see what it's going to happen for the other two lawsuits that are still remaining. Hopefully they are equipped with a better lawyer, because, you know, I don't understand how Karma's lawyer did not tell her that she needed to submit original data. I feel like this is a huge oversight, and it's a mistake that should not have been made in the first place. Hey, you! Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.